Belief about
I'm on the phone.
You on the phone?
Yeah.
You looking at my baby?
No, I ain't looking at him. I'm good.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, man. Next time we come outside, don't be staring and shit like that. I don't like that.
I wasn't looking at him.
All right, man. That's Crawford was doing interviews, and I read on Boxing 24/7 that used to be old East Side Boxing. He said that Manny Pacquiao was scared of him. He scared off Manny Pacquiao after the Derry John fight. They told him, I think it was in 2015. I think they said, don't quote me on that. He said that if you look good versus Derry John, you can get the Pacquiao fight. He said he stopped Derry John, and he felt like that was his coming out party. And he said, Pacquiao didn't want to, he didn't want to fight him no more. He said that Freddie Roach had already knew that, he was a good fighter because he had already fought some of his fighters. You know what I'm saying? So he said he felt like he scared Manny Pacquiao off. And, I mean, so be it. It wasn't meant to happen. Now, had he had that fight and had he looked impressive versus Manny Pacquiao, would have gave him a leg up in negotiations with Errol Spence and Keith Thurman? It possibly could have. It possibly could have. It possibly could have, catapulted his superstardom. But like I always tell you, God only give you what you can handle, what you're ready for. Everything happened for a reason. Now, was it a chance Pacquiao could have beat him? Yeah. It was a chance. Pacquiao, he still was thumping a little bit, still with speed. But Crawford's lane, I mean, it'd have been interesting. It'd have been interesting. You got the ambidextrous fighter. So, I mean, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, Pacquiao, he didn't owe anybody anything at that point. Canelo fans try to make that point about Canelo, but Canelo left a lot of meat on the bone. He left a tremendous amount of meat on the bone. A lot of stuff was handed to Canelo Alvarez. And, people feel like, Pacquiao got away with a lot because he was a small guy. But that would have been an interesting fight. It kind of, again, Bull kind of gave him a sneak preview into fighting guys like that. Yeah, Gamboa gave him a sneak preview into that. When you got them little short, shifty guys, and Pacquiao can't jump in and out like he used to. At that point, he still could a little bit. But Pacquiao is more predicated on in and out, people underestimating him because he's small, but not looking at his legs, how shifty he is. And most guys would allow him to feint them to death, and him just jump on them, throw combinations. They didn't try to time him. They didn't try to utilize a jab. If you pump a jab like that, he can't jump in and out like that if you believe in your jab. If you notice, he do all that moving, he got to pause the punch. He got to set the punch. And that's what Mayweather figured out, that he had to set the punch. And when he set his feet, them feet stop, he about to punch. So if you can control Pacquiao with that jab, and you can get his timing down when he set his feet, that's how you do it. And Marquez, that's something that Marquez figured out in their very first fight. He got to be set to throw. He got to be set to throw. For Crawford, he seemed to be a smart fighter. So, I figure he understand that. But definitely, if he won that fight, definitely would have been a part of his career. And he said Derry John was Pacquiao's sparring partner. So he knew they went the other way, and then you get these guys. Pacquiao won the Hall of Fame this past weekend. I was listening to Sean Porter say some of the speeches was long-winded. And one of the fans, he was talking to a fan, he said that he enjoyed it. I'm telling you, the majority of these, let me say this today. This generation of boxing, the majority of them don't love to fight. You can tell. You know, you had a Hall of Fame, ceremony with a lot of great guys going. They should be able to speak as long as the fuck they want. And most of these guys don't love boxing, bro. A lot of these guys, it was a choice. It wasn't their choice. They was thrown in it, needed some money. Daddy made them do. A lot of these guys, dog, they don't have the enthusiasm for boxing. And I'm talking about the participants. They don't love what they do. But at Pacquiao beat Crawford, Crawford still went on to do the things that he did, and it made his legacy that much greater. But at that point, he didn't owe it to anybody. He's just in there trying to stack some bread. What he had ran up on Boots like he did Barrios. And I don't know. They see Barrios as a sweet lick. That's all it is. They see Barrios as a sweet lick. But yeah, of course they did. They probably seen what Derrick John was doing in sparring, how you made him look. Long reach, athletic, young, sharp, switch hit, love to throw the jab, tremendous power. And I think what separates Crawford, his mentality and his combination punches. You don't have guys throwing his punch variety, combination punches, his mentality. He's a fighter. He's a fighter that can box. You know what I'm saying? He's competitive. You throw the combination punch. Ain't nobody throwing combinations no more. And a lot of these guys, if they are throwing combinations, it's redundant. It's the same combinations. I mean, he can get creative. He can get creative in how he throw. You've seen him drop people with the uppercut, the hook, the right hand, the left hand. Even with Sean Porter, when he dropped him with I think it was with the second time. I think he followed up with a right hook, and missed. He just missed Sean Porter with that right hook. He followed with a hook, and he just missed that hook. He just missed that damn hook. So, yeah, Pacquiao, like I said before, it was a winnable fight for Pacquiao. But I think he was, at the time, Crawford, I think he beat Crawford because maybe he didn't have as much. Crawford didn't have the experience, but Crawford had the talent. And I think Crawford would have been favored in that fight. He would have won that fight. But had he stopped Manny Pacquiao, and at 140, he said it was supposed to be at 140. That would have been a very interesting fight. Blood make them adjust. Pacquiao don't really make adjustments. That's why when you see the Mayweather fight, wasn't no adjustment. They were just so used to him zipping, zoom, zoom, zoom. That working. They ain't had nothing else. That's why you fight a guy like that. It's kind of like not unorthodox in the sense of him being a southpaw, but how irky jerky he is. How shifty he is. A lot of people go into a defensive. They go into a defensive shell. When he punched, they go into a high guard and let him punch. No, you keep that jab going. You make him break that distance. You made him cut that distance. You know what I'm saying? You control him with the jab. Look at when his feet gonna set, touch him to the body. You're really controlling him with your lead hand. If you ain't got no lead hand, guys like Margarito really didn't stand a chance. Yup. You gotta control him with that lead hand, bro. Control him with the lead hand. If you ain't got no jab, You ain't getting beat that man. But yeah, we definitely would have, great what if story for Crawford. Like I said, everything happened for a reason. You see, I say this about T.O. He looking at, I did all this, I'm accomplished, I done won, lost, whatever, had all these belts. I think I should be further along than I am. Life isn't fair. You see somebody in the first half of their life, you trying to figure it out as a teenager. You might see one of your boys get a great opportunity, or somebody get a great opportunity. They're gonna make 6, 7 figures, who knows, whatever. But then, they got that money too early, they got that success too early, and they put themselves in debt and they fumbled it. They was too immature. Now at 30, they kind of starting over, they trying to pick the pieces up. God didn't give you your success at 30, 35. You done lived a little bit, you knew what it was to struggle, you knew what it was, you knew what it was, not, to make a few mistakes. You battle tested. Now God giving you the blessings. Now He giving what you ready for. Don't always measure yourself up against some other people. Some people may front run and have a hellified time and they early on. By the time they 30, 35, whatever, later on, they look like they 60. They look like they 70. You know what I'm saying? Slow and steady wins the race. Everything happens for a reason. Don't forget it. Everything happens for a reason. Your time will come. Once you want your time to come, when you're ready to handle it, you think about it right now. Y'all talking about the NBA players making all these mistakes. Boy, oh boy, if I was 20 years old with 7 figures, bro, like, only reason I would survive is if my parents micromanaged me. Like J.R. Smith's parents did him. Go watch J.R. Smith when he was a rookie. That's the only way I would survive. But my parents had so much of influence on my life that I would listen. Like I said, I couldn't say I wanted for anything. Really, I got everything I wanted and needed. Everything I needed, I got it. Everything I wanted, I couldn't really complain. Like I heard, and everybody has some stories about their parents for sure. I can have a laundry list of fucking complaints. But whenever I still need my parents there, I can't complain, bro. I literally can't complain. I was spoiled all that shit. I cannot complain. Because they come to all the games and stuff I had? No. But when they could come, they did come. When I wanted to go this place, I did go to that place. I was even going into a student exchange in China. My parents was going to let me go until I changed my mind. So anything I wanted to do, I was able to do it. In high school, I had 2 cars. How many motherfuckers in high school say they had 2 cars? I had responsibility, but beyond the measures as a young child. That's why I know how to do everything for myself. So, I can't complain. But hey, thumbs up the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel. The subscribe button is the bell icon button. Hit all notifications, increase your chance to get notifications. We go live and drop video. Hit the link tree, join the Patreon, Free Game 89 channel, Mercy Sports Talk, Cash App, Venmo, the whole 9 piece.